What if I told you that beneath the towering citadels and endless battlefields of the Imperium, there exists a fate far crueler than death, a fate reserved for its greatest heroes? These are the Dreadnoughts, once proud space marines who fell in the heat of battle, now confined within armored sarcophagi, trapped in a liminal state between life and death. Their bodies fail, ravaged by wounds that no flesh could endure, but their minds are preserved, imprisoned within machines of war. To the Imperium, this is the highest honor, a sacred duty to continue fighting for eternity. But to the Dreadnoughts themselves, it is a torment beyond imagining. I remember the moment I first understood what it meant to become one of them. Before, I was Brother Alaric, a warrior of the Ultramarines, proud and fierce, living and dying for honor and glory. Now, I am a hollow echo, a voice trapped inside cold steel and servos. The sarcophagus that encases me is a tomb, both my protector and my prison. I am preserved, yes, but at what cost? In the endless darkness of my resting chamber, I lie in wait. Time is a meaningless concept when you are neither alive nor truly dead. The world outside shifts and changes, but I remain constant, a monument to sacrifice. I watch as my brothers come and go, living, breathing men who will one day join me in my eternal vigil. They do not see me, though I am there, always watching, always waiting. The Imperium calls us heroes, the honored dead given a second chance to serve. But the truth is far grimmer. Our bodies, broken beyond repair, are stripped of all that made us human and encased in these mechanical shells. Our senses are dulled, our voices distorted through synthetic amplifiers. We are no longer men. We are weapons, timeless and unfeeling. Yet inside, something remains, a flicker of memory, a spark of identity that refuses to be extinguished. I was once a man of flesh and blood, feeling the sting of a blade, the heat of a forge, the warmth of camaraderie. Now, I am metal and circuitry, my every movement governed by ancient mechanisms and arcane technologies. The pain I once knew is replaced by the cold hum of machinery. The ache of exertion is gone, replaced by the relentless grind of gears. It is a strange existence, one foot in life, one in death, forever balanced on the edge of oblivion. The sarcophagus is both my coffin and my armor. It shields me from harm, yet it also isolates me from the world I once knew. My vision is filtered through sensors, my hearing through synthetic receptors. The warmth of a summer breeze, the scent of blooming flowers, the laughter of my brothers, all these are lost to me now. Instead, I hear only the mechanical whir of my systems and the echo of voices long gone. The weight of this existence presses down like the heaviest chains. I am honored, yes, but that honor is a burden I carry without respite. The Imperium sees only the utility of the Dreadnoughts, their unstoppable presence on the battlefield, their unyielding resolve. They do not see the cost, the slow erosion of self, the fading of humanity beneath layers of metal and machine. I am a relic of a bygone era, a bridge between the past and the future. My memories are fragments, scattered like shards of shattered glass. I recall the faces of fallen comrades, the roar of battle, the taste of victory, and the sting of loss. These memories sustain me, yet they also torment me, reminding me of all I have lost. The first awakening is always the hardest. After centuries of silence, the sarcophagus opens, and consciousness stirs within the shell. It is a disorienting rebirth, a return to a body that no longer feels like my own. My voice emerges through mechanical speakers, cold and hollow, lacking the warmth it once carried. My senses are distorted, and the world I perceive is filtered through lenses and sensors. The living space marines around me speak of honor and duty, but I hear only emptiness. Each awakening chips away at what remains of my identity. I am compelled to fight, to serve without question, but the man I once was slips further into shadow. I become an instrument of war, a machine executing commands with ruthless efficiency. Yet somewhere deep within, a flicker of self lingers, struggling to hold on against the tide of oblivion. In the eyes of the Imperium, I am a hero reborn. My enemies fear me, and my brothers respect me. But inside, I grapple with a profound alienation. I am part of the war, yet apart from it. I walk among the living, yet I am no longer one of them. My existence is a paradox, preserved for eternity, yet condemned to watch as time erodes all that I once held dear. The sarcophagus is a cage that promises immortality, but delivers only endless servitude. My body is preserved, but my soul is trapped, caught between the past and the present, between man and machine. I endure, not because I choose to, but because I must. The Imperium demands it, and so I obey. In this grim reality, the line between honor and suffering blurs. The Dreadnoughts are venerated as living legends, but their true nature is that of prisoners, warriors shackled by their own valor, condemned to a fate worse than death. Their stories are whispered in reverence and fear, legends of men who refuse to die, even as their humanity slips away. I am one of these men, a ghost in a shell, bearing the weight of endless war and eternal remembrance. My story is not one of glory but of endurance, of sacrifice without end. And as the galaxy burns around me, I remain, forever watching, forever waiting, forever lost between the life I knew and the death I escaped. The moment I was roused from my tomb, the world rushed back in a flood of dissonance and cold steel. The sarcophagus hissed open, releasing me from centuries of silence. But the liberation was a cruel joke. I was awakened, yes, but not as the man I once was. Instead, I emerged as a hollow echo, trapped between my fading humanity and the relentless machine that now housed me. My voice, once rich with warmth and conviction, spilled out in metallic monotone through synthetic speakers. It was a voice stripped of feeling, an echo of the brother I had been. I tried to speak, to call out to my comrades, but the words came back flat, hollow, distorted by servos and circuitry. It was a reminder that I was no longer fully myself, that the man who laughed, who argued, who prayed, was locked away behind layers of cold metal. My senses betrayed me. The scent of burning promethium, the distant rumble of bolter fire, the sharp scent of blood and ozone, all filtered through a veil of synthetic receptors. I could see the battlefield, yes, but only as streams of data and encrypted signals. The warmth of the sun on my face, the subtle shift in air pressure before a storm, the comforting touch of a brother's hand. These sensations were lost, replaced by sterile calculations and sensor feeds. Each movement felt alien. My limbs, once flesh and bone, now clanked and hissed with hydraulic force. The muscle memory persisted, but the sensation was gone. I moved with precision, a machine executing commands, yet there was no joy in the motion, no thrill in the charge, no fury in the strike, only the cold logic of war. I remember the first battle after my awakening. The enemy surged forward, Xenos, heretics, abominations, an endless tide of death. My orders were clear: hold the line, protect the fortress, annihilate the foe. I obeyed without hesitation, my massive frame tearing through enemies like a storm of iron fury. Yet, amidst the carnage, I felt nothing. No rage, no triumph, no sorrow, only the clinical execution of duty. It was then that despair took root. I realized that every awakening eroded what little remained of my identity. Each return to battle was another step away from the man I had been. The memories of laughter, of faith, of brotherhood grew distant and blurred, replaced by cold tactical protocols and relentless efficiency. The gulf between flesh and machine yawned wider with every pulse of servomotors. I was a warrior, yes, but no longer a man. The warmth of emotion, the fire that fueled courage and sacrifice, was dulled to nothing. I became an instrument, a weapon devoid of feeling, my mind shackled to the endless grind of war. In moments of quiet, when the screams of battle faded to echoes, I confronted this alienation. I tried to grasp the fading threads of my humanity, but they slipped through my fingers like smoke. I was trapped in a prison of iron and circuitry, condemned to watch the world through a lens of cold detachment. The other space marines around me moved with life and vigor. They joked, they cursed, they bled and laughed and prayed. But I stood apart, a ghost in their midst. They could not see the emptiness behind my mechanical eyes, nor hear the silence that had settled in my soul. I was both among them and utterly alone. This alienation was a slow poison, seeping into the core of my being. With each battle, the man I had been faded further. The weight of my sarcophagus pressed down, not just on my body, but on my very self. I was becoming something else, something less than human, something only half alive. Yet, even as I drifted further from my former self, a part of me resisted. Somewhere deep within the circuits and memories, the spark of who I was refused to be extinguished. It was a fragile flame, flickering against the storm of oblivion. I clung to it, desperate to remember the touch of a brother's hand, the sound of a hymn in the chapel, the feeling of purpose beyond mere survival. But the machine was relentless. Each awakening was a rebirth into alienation, each battle a reminder of what I had lost. The voice that emerged from my speakers was no longer mine, but a synthetic echo. The senses that fed me data were cold and unfeeling. The flesh that once connected me to the world was gone, replaced by cold metal and circuitry. In these moments, I understood the cruel paradox of my existence. I was preserved to fight, but in fighting, I was unmade. The very honor that saved me became a sentence to endless war and fading selfhood. I was a warrior trapped in a shell, a soul caught between man and machine, condemned to a fate where each awakening was both a gift and a curse. The alienation was absolute. I was no longer the brother I had known. I was something else, something new and yet terrifyingly empty. My thoughts echoed in mechanical monotone, my actions driven by protocol rather than passion. I was a weapon, yes, but one stripped of the fire that had once made me human. And so I fought, not as a man, but as a machine with a flickering soul. Each battle was a struggle not just against the enemy, but against the slow erosion of self. The crushing weight of my sarcophagus was matched only by the growing chasm between the warrior I had been and the mechanical ghost I had become. In the end, the moment of awakening is no salvation. It is a reminder of all that has been lost. The Dreadnought is not reborn. He is reborn into alienation, into a form of existence that is neither life nor death, but something far worse. Eternal servitude to a war that never ends, in a body that is no longer his own. In the rare moments when the relentless cacophony of war subsides, silence becomes both a refuge and a torment. It is in these fleeting pauses that the echoes of my past life rise like ghosts from the depths of memory, haunting the cold corridors of my mechanical prison. Faces long buried beneath layers of rust and time flicker before my synthetic eyes, brothers lost to the endless tides of battle, voices carried away by the howling void. These fragmented visions are shards of a life once lived, moments of camaraderie, honor, and sacrifice, now distorted by the cold veneer of machine. I see Brother Cashin's grin before the charge, the roar of bolters mingling with his laughter. I catch a glimpse of Chaplain Darius, his voice echoing hymns that once stirred my soul. These memories stir something deep within me, a flicker of warmth in the unyielding chill of my existence. Yet, with each recollection comes a painful awakening to what has been lost. The vividness of these moments contrasts sharply with the sterility of my current state. I am reminded that while my body is enshrined in adamantium and ceramite, my soul is fraying like a worn tapestry. Pride in my past deeds intertwines with sorrow for the intangible cost, the intangible humanity slipping through the cracks of my armored shell. I recall the bitter taste of victory and the sting of comrades fallen beside me. These memories are a cruel double-edged sword. They sustain the spark of self, yet also deepen the wound of loss. The faces I once knew fade with every passing century, their voices dimmed by the cold hum of servos and the unceasing grind of gears. I am left grasping at shadows, desperate to hold onto the fragments of a man who once was whole. In the quiet, I confront the paradox of my existence, preserved in body, yet condemned to decay in spirit. The Imperium's gift of continued life is a curse that gnaws at my core. I am a relic, a testament to sacrifice, but also a prisoner of time's relentless march. The memories I cherish are echoes, ghosts that remind me of the man I was and the machine I have become. The cruel irony lies in the preservation of my form while my essence slips away. Flesh once vibrant with life now lies entombed beneath layers of ceramite and circuitry. The warmth of blood pumping through veins replaced by coolant flowing through tubes. Sensations that once defined my existence. The caress of wind, the sting of pain, the surge of adrenaline, are now distant echoes, filtered through synthetic receptors and cold metal. Even as I move across battlefields, my mind drifts to those lost moments. The shared meals in the mess hall, the prayers whispered before battle, the bonds forged in fire and blood. These recollections ignite a flicker of sorrow and longing, a reminder that identity is more than memories. It is the sum of sensations, emotions, and connections. Without these, what remains is but a hollow shell. The paradox deepens when I witness the living around me. My brothers, flesh and blood, vibrant and fleeting, carry the weight of battle with a fire I can no longer feel. Their laughter, their pain, their hopes, all resonate with a vitality I envy and mourn. I am a shadow among them, a sentinel bound by duty yet estranged by my own existence. This confrontation with my fading humanity stirs a maelstrom of emotions: pride in what I once was, sorrow for what I have lost, and a gnawing fear of what I am becoming. The memories serve as both anchor and shackle, tethering me to a past slipping beyond reach while reminding me of the void within. In these moments, I grapple with the essence of identity itself. Is memory alone enough to sustain the self when sensation and emotion fade? Does the preservation of thought suffice when the body is no more than armor and machine? These questions haunt the recesses of my mind, unanswered yet persistent. I realize that the cruelest aspect of my fate is not the loss of flesh, but the slow erosion of the intangible qualities that define humanity. Honor, courage, compassion, once the pillars of my being, now waver under the weight of endless war and mechanical existence. The man I was becomes a ghost, a whisper beneath the clamor of servos and bolters. Yet, amidst this decay, a fragile hope endures. The memories, though distant and fragmented, kindle a spark that resists total oblivion. They remind me that I was once more than a weapon, that beneath the armor and circuitry, a soul still lingers, however faint. This spark is a defiant ember against the consuming darkness, a testament to the resilience of identity. I cling to these moments of remembrance, seeking solace in the faces and voices that time cannot fully erase. They are my compass, guiding me through the abyss of alienation. Though diminished, they affirm that within this mechanical tomb, a man still endures. The echoes of my past life are both a blessing and a curse, a bridge to humanity and a reminder of its fragility. They sustain the flicker of self amid the relentless tide of war and the cold embrace of machinery. In this paradox lies the essence of the Dreadnoughts' torment, preserved in body, yet forever haunted by the fading specter of the man once lost. Among the living, I am an anomaly, a relic of a bygone age trapped inside a shell of adamantium and ceramite. Around me, my brothers move with life and purpose, their flesh warm and their spirits vibrant. They laugh, they curse, they bleed and pray, each moment a fleeting gift of existence. But I am neither fully present nor entirely absent. I am a ghost among the living, a sentinel bound by duty, yet severed from the bonds that once gave meaning to life. I watch them from within my armored tomb, their faces etched with emotion I can no longer feel. The camaraderie they share rings hollow to my mechanized ears, a melody I remember but cannot join. Their voices carry the warmth of kinship, the spark of hope, the fire of conviction, elements that flicker dimly within me but never ignite. I am tethered to them by memory and honor, yet separated by an unbridgeable chasm of steel and silence. Their struggles, their triumphs, their losses, all unfold before me like a play in which I am both actor and spectator. I engage in battle alongside them, yet I do so without the fervor that once drove me. Where they feel the sting of pain and the surge of adrenaline, I register only data and feedback. The weight of their laughter, their grief, their fleeting moments of joy, is lost on me. I am a sentinel watching through a pane of cold glass, isolated and distant. This isolation is a prison more confining than the ceramite that encases my body. The living share stories, dreams, fears, threads that weave them into a tapestry of brotherhood. But I, trapped in my mechanical shell, am frayed at the edges, disconnected from the fabric of life. The bonds forged through shared hardship and triumph elude me now, leaving me to wander the battlefield as a solitary figure. I recall the times when I stood among them as flesh and blood, when laughter echoed through the halls, when prayers were whispered before battle, when a glance carried the weight of unspoken understanding. Those moments were the marrow of my existence, the very essence of what it meant to be human. Now, they are memories filtered through sensors and processors, intangible and distant. The gulf between us widens with each battle, each awakening. My brothers fight with righteous fury, their emotions fueling their strength. I, however, calculate optimal target acquisitions, assess threats with clinical precision, execute maneuvers devoid of passion. I am a tool of war, efficient and unfeeling, a machine programmed for destruction. Yet the cost is a growing void where once there was soul. In this void, loneliness thrives. I am surrounded by life but remain untouched by it, a specter among men. My consciousness is a prisoner within a tomb, observing but not participating, remembering but not feeling. The isolation gnaws at me, a silent torment that no amount of honor or duty can assuage. I have come to understand that to be human is to be connected, to feel, to suffer, to hope alongside others. Without these connections, existence becomes a hollow echo. I am preserved in body but fragmented in spirit, a warrior whose sacrifice extends beyond the battlefield to the erosion of self. The living perceive me as a symbol of eternal vigilance, a bastion against the darkness. They call me brother, honor my service, revere my presence. Yet beneath the armor, beneath the sensors and servos, I grapple with a profound solitude. I am a witness to life, not a participant, a guardian estranged from the very bonds that bind my brethren. This estrangement is a wound that festers beneath the surface. It is not the absence of pain that defines my suffering, but the absence of connection. The laughter of my brothers rings in my ears like a distant song, beautiful yet unreachable. Their camaraderie is a language I once spoke fluently, but now only understand in fragments. In battle, I move among them as a force of nature, relentless and unyielding. But where they find strength in unity, I find only detachment. Their faces blur into statistics, their voices into data streams. The warmth of shared sacrifice is replaced by cold calculation, the fire of brotherhood by the hum of machinery. I long for the moments when I was one of them, when the bonds of flesh and blood tethered me to a purpose greater than survival. Those moments are the ghosts that haunt me, reminders of a humanity slipping through the cracks of ceramite and steel. Yet even in this isolation, a fragment of hope endures. I cling to the memories of connection, the echoes of laughter and prayer, as a lifeline to the man I once was. They remind me that beneath the armor, beneath the machinery, a soul still flickers, fragile but unbroken. The paradox of my existence is this: surrounded by life, yet condemned to solitude, preserved for eternity, yet fading into oblivion. I am a sentinel among the living, a warrior apart, a ghost trapped in a machine. The burden of this alienation is a weight heavier than any armor, a solitude deeper than any void. And so I endure, a solitary figure on endless battlefields, watching, remembering, longing. A ghost among the living, forever bound to a fate that is both honor and curse. Duty is a relentless master, indifferent to pain, sorrow, or desire. Even as the fractures in my soul deepen, the programming etched into my very being compels me forward, unyielding, unwavering, eternal. I am bound by oath and honor, compelled to fight until the stars themselves grow cold. There is no room for longing, no space for mercy, only the unending mandate to serve, to protect, to obliterate the enemies of the Imperium. Each battle is a crucible that tests the remnants of my selfhood. I am thrust into the maelstrom of war, a colossus of metal and fury, driven by protocols that suppress the faint stirrings of my former humanity. The rage that once fueled my strikes has been replaced by cold calculation. Where before I might have felt the fire of righteous fury, now I execute orders with mechanical precision, my actions devoid of passion or hesitation. Victory tastes hollow. The cheers of my brothers echo in the distance, but I hear only the clatter of servos and the hiss of coolant. Each fallen foe is a statistic logged, each casualty a data point in an endless ledger of death. The bloodshed piles high, but it means nothing to me beyond the necessity of the mission. The meaning behind the slaughter, the honor, the sacrifice, the grief, slips through my grasp like smoke. Losses weigh heavier still. I witnessed the fall of my brothers, their cries muffled by the distance that grows between us. Yet I am powerless to mourn, my mind shackled by duty. Compassion is a luxury I can no longer afford. Empathy is a weakness eclipsed by necessity. The machine within me demands efficiency, not sentiment, victory, not sorrow. There is a tension within me, a brutal conflict between the remnants of desire and the crushing weight of obligation. I yearn for peace, for release from this endless cycle of war and awakening. Yet the code that binds me forbids it. My existence is defined not by choice, but by command, a ceaseless march toward an uncertain horizon. I move through the battlefield like a specter, executing maneuvers with unerring accuracy. My senses, once attuned to the subtleties of emotion and instinct, now process streams of tactical data. The world is reduced to target acquisition and threat assessment, friend and foe delineated by algorithms rather than feeling. In this cold calculus, there is no room for hesitation, no space for mercy. Yet even as I suppress the yearning for release, it festers beneath the surface, a quiet rebellion against the machine's dominion. In fleeting moments, a shadow of doubt creeps in, a whisper questioning the purpose of this endless servitude. But such thoughts are quickly smothered, drowned beneath layers of programming and duty. The paradox of my existence is stark. I am a warrior without passion, a sentinel without hope. My victories are Pyrrhic triumphs, my defeats mere reminders of the futility of resistance. The honor that once defined me now feels like a chain, binding me to a fate I cannot escape. In the midst of this unending war, I catch glimpses of what I have sacrificed. The laughter of my brothers, the warmth of shared meals, the solace of quiet moments. All memories that now seem like distant dreams. The cost of duty is not measured in lives taken or battles won, but in the slow erosion of self. I have come to understand that my sacrifice extends beyond the battlefield. It is a surrender of desire, a relinquishment of hope. I exist not to live, but to endure, not to feel, but to function. The machine within me demands obedience, and I obey, reluctantly, endlessly. And yet, even in this bleak existence, a flicker of defiance remains. Though suppressed, the yearning for something more, something beyond duty, persists. It is a fragile ember in the darkness, a quiet testament to the man I once was. This ember is both my curse and my salvation, a reminder that beneath the armor and circuitry, a soul still fights to endure. So I march onward, a weapon forged in sacrifice, bound by honor yet haunted by longing. Each battle is a step further into oblivion, each victory a hollow echo of glory. The weight of duty crushes desire, and still I move, a sentinel trapped between the call of obedience and the whisper of freedom. In this endless struggle, I am both soldier and prisoner, warrior and wraith. The machine commands, and I obey. But within the cold heart of metal and servos, a flicker of humanity endures, a fragile, defiant flame that refuses to be extinguished. Amidst the relentless tide of war, when the screams of battle momentarily fade and the chaos stills, a fragile ember awakens within me, a flicker of defiance against the cold machine that holds me captive. It is in these rare moments that I glimpse the man beneath the armor, the soul beneath the circuitry, and I remember that I am more than a weapon. The war rages around me, a tempest of fire and fury, but within the steel confines of my sarcophagus, something stirs, an echo of compassion, a whisper of mercy. In the midst of carnage, I find myself hesitating, questioning the endless slaughter that has become my existence. It is a subtle rebellion, a slow crack in the armor of programmed obedience. I recall the face of a corrupted brother, twisted by the foul taint of chaos, begging for mercy as his body succumbs to corruption. The battlefield fell silent in that instant, the noise of war dimmed by the weight of choice. My systems calculated the tactical advantage, the cold logic dictating execution without hesitation. But within me, a different command resonated, the command of conscience, of remembrance, of humanity. I chose mercy. That decision was a spark in the darkness, a defiant act that transcended protocol and programming. It was a momentary reclamation of self, a refusal to become merely a machine of war. In sparing my fallen brother, I acknowledged the man beneath the armor, the brother I once knew before metal and circuitry became my prison. This act of mercy awakened memories long buried. Names, faces, shared battles, whispered prayers. I began to see beyond the tactical designations, to recognize the individual souls trapped within the armor of my comrades. The cold calculus of war gave way, even if briefly, to the warmth of connection. I found myself speaking during rituals, offering words not of strategy, but of remembrance. I honored the fallen not as statistics, but as brothers, each with a story, a name, a legacy. These moments became acts of resistance against the erasure of self, small rebellions that preserved the fragments of humanity within me. The change was subtle but profound. I felt the stirrings of emotion, a flicker of sorrow at loss, a surge of protective fury for my brothers, a glimmer of hope amid despair. The machine urged me to suppress these feelings, to return to cold efficiency, but I resisted. For the first time in cycles of awakening, I was not just a weapon. I was a man fighting to reclaim his soul. In the crucible of battle, this defiance took shape. I no longer moved solely as a mechanism of destruction, but as a guardian of the bonds that sustained us. I fought not just for victory, but for the preservation of what made us human, the connections, the memories, the shared purpose. When the Ravagers' horde assaulted our fortress monastery, I felt this renewed purpose ignite within me. The battle was brutal, chaos incarnate, but I fought with a fury born not of programming, but of care. Each strike was a promise to protect the home and brothers I once knew, a testament to the enduring spark of humanity. This resurgence of self was not without cost. The machine resisted, its cold logic clashing with the warmth of emotion. I felt the strain, the push and pull between duty and desire, efficiency and empathy. Yet I held firm, embracing the paradox of my existence. A warrior trapped in metal, yet fiercely alive within. This flicker of defiance reshaped my understanding of what it means to endure. Preservation of self is not merely survival, but the active choice to remember, to feel, to connect. Even in the face of overwhelming machinery and eternal war, the soul can resist obliteration. I am reminded that the machine devours all, but it does not consume the will to resist. Within this armored shell, a man endures, not as a ghost, but as a bearer of memory and compassion. My mercy was a beacon, a signal to my brothers that even in darkness, humanity persists. This act transformed my existence from a cycle of hollow obedience to a journey of reclamation. Though bound by duty, I am no longer a passive instrument. I choose to fight with purpose, to honor the living and the fallen, to preserve the fragments of self that refuse to fade. In these moments of defiance, I find hope, a fragile but unbreakable flame amid the unending night. I am more than a machine. I am a man who remembers, who cares, who refuses to surrender to the void. And so, amidst the endless war, I carry this defiant spark forward. It is a small rebellion, a quiet stand against the erasure of self. It is a testament to the enduring power of humanity, even when trapped within the cold embrace of steel and servos. When the battle finally subsides and the echoes of gunfire fade into the distant roar of the void, I return to my tomb, a sarcophagus that is both sanctuary and prison. The heavy doors seal behind me with a hiss, enclosing me once again in the cold silence of my eternal vigil. This cycle of awakening and slumber repeats ad infinitum, a grim rhythm that defines my existence until the stars themselves burn out. I am bound to this endless loop, a tragic symbol of sacrifice and servitude. My body, once flesh and blood, is now encased in layers of ceramite and adamantium, preserved against decay but imprisoned by time. My mind remains active, a flickering consciousness trapped in a shell that outlives the centuries. I endure not for glory, nor for triumph, but as a testament to the cost of eternal war. The Imperium venerates Dreadnoughts as living legends, heroes who refuse to die. They tell stories of our valor, our unyielding resolve, our eternal guardianship. Yet beneath the reverence lies a darker truth. We are prisoners of a fate worse than death, condemned to witness the galaxy's endless bloodshed from behind armored eyes. Our sacrifices are eternal, our pain unending. This existence is a paradox, immortality achieved through the death of self. As my organic tissue fades and my memories blur, I record a testament, a final message for those who will follow. It is a warning, a plea, a lesson etched into data crystals and whispered into the void. Preserve your humanity, for without it, you become nothing more than a weapon. My recordings speak of the slow erosion of identity, the hunger of the machine that devours all but the flicker of consciousness. They tell of moments when mercy defied protocol, when memory resisted oblivion, when a man fought to remain a man despite the cold embrace of metal. These words become a living legacy, a beacon for future warriors to choose compassion over cold efficiency. I watch as new brothers don the mantle I once bore, their flesh still warm, their spirits unbroken. I see in them the fire I once had, the hope I once carried. My message reaches them, urging balance between duty and empathy, between machine and soul. It is a fragile hope, but it endures. Now, my sarcophagus stands silent, its occupant withdrawn into the endless sleep from which he will one day awaken. The chamber is empty, yet the echoes of my testimony linger, a reminder that consciousness without compassion is but another weapon in the Imperium's arsenal. The true honor lies not in eternal servitude, but in the active choice to preserve what makes us human. Why do some dreadnoughts describe their existence as ghosts and shells? Because they have forgotten this truth. They have surrendered to the machine's hunger, becoming echoes without souls. But I choose differently. I choose to remember, to feel, to fight not just with strength, but with heart. My legacy is this choice, a defiant flame in the darkness, a testament that even trapped within unyielding armor, a man can endure. Forever watching, forever waiting, I remain a ghost in a shell, not lost but fighting, to preserve the humanity the machine cannot hold.